The gardens at Mount Stewart are the creation of Edith Londonderry, the singular visionary who was the wife of the 7th Marquess of Londonderry. On one of her first visits to the property, whilst it was still under the stewardship of her predecessor, Edith described the house and gardens at Mount Stewart as one of the dampest, darkest and saddest places she had ever stayed in. Once she had taken up residence, Edith set to with great vigour to remove 2 giant holm oaks to allow herself space to create. It is worth noting, though, that the woodland has never left Mount Stewart. Even in the formal gardens, one has the sense of the trees leaning into the spaces. The formal gardens are impressive and demonstrate Edith's sense of perspective, design and imagination within formal structures, whilst at once subverting and pouring through her own character. But they are not the only gardens here at Mount Stewart. Outside of the hedges and the postcard publication images are the woodland gardens and rhododendron woods that were her great love, areas well worth exploring with narratives well worth telling. Guests of the Londonderry family would have entered the property via the West Gatehouse and been drawn along this road here, the Drive. Before reaching this point, they would have travelled alongside the tidal Strangford Lock with fantastic views in all weather. Whilst it is tarmacked now, it would have been a more simple, pastoral affair. Many of the grandest trees on the property are growing along this stretch, including this magnificent Monterey pine, Pinus radiata. A fantastic specimen well over 100 years old. This species was planted in many coastal gardens due to their ability to withstand aerosol salinity and high winds. It was throughout and around these historic plantings that Edith worked her own artistry, utilising block plantings of, at the time, thoroughly modern large-leaved rhododendrons, Sina grande and Maccabianum amongst them. At this point, the drive approaches at an acute angle, so that at first glance the house appears, while grand, nowhere near its full proportions. At this point, the skilled carriageman would slow the horses to barely a movement, and the true breadth and scale of the house would be experienced in its full, awe-inspiring capacity. It was quite the journey. The Rose Garden was originally called the Lady's Garden, and Edith referred to it as the Atrium Garden. It's located in a walled enclosure to the most southerly point of the walled garden, which is itself an element that preceded Edith. In 1919, the South Garden, which is what we now know as the Italian Garden, was envisaged by Edith as a rose garden. Roses didn't succeed in the parterres. Edith concluded that this was due to the proximity to the wind and, more importantly, the salt that it carried from the loch, along with the sandy soil that had been left behind. By 1926, the good roses worth saving were being moved up to the Atrium Garden. In her 1926 diary, Edith writes that the rose garden is here, with family namesakes being planted, most being bred by famous Northern Irish rosarians such as the Dixons of Newtonards and the Macreadys of Portadown. It is also in this diary that she writes, "No scentless rose will ever be found at Mount Stewart. We have found it impossible to source these namesake roses for the garden in its current iteration, but Edith wrote that all rose species I have here, also the roses of bygone days, so beautiful and full of charm. I've marked out some modern kinds, providing the revamped rose garden with its ideology. Any rose with scent and beauty, old, new, shrub, climbing, hybrid tea, is welcome in the rose garden." The current rose garden was opened in spring 2018, with the refurbishment of the hard landscaping done by gardeners and volunteers and travelling Erasmus groups, with planting largely completed but always ongoing. This year, the gardeners found evidence of a type of fungal or bacterial canker on the roses, and it's known that cold, wet winters can increase the likelihood of these forming. But this is part of the dichotomous joy of growing roses. You can't grow roses unless you're going to incubate their myriad sicknesses. It's important to slow yourself down in a garden, to take the time to view and appreciate your plants as individuals as much as an entire composition. Down here in the fernery we have a number of exotic tree ferns growing, as it's almost always wet, and the overhead canopy provides ideal shelter from frosts, as in this location we're quite a distance from the climatic influences of the loch. Moving through the fernery over Himalayan style bridges built by the staff and volunteers, you come to an area recently created, the Himalayan walk. This winding path transports the walker to the foothills of the Himalaya, with scented epiphytic Medennii rhododendrons planted into tree stumps and strange knobbly bamboos to be pushed through. And the path continues along the rhododendron walks of Clark's Hill, amongst some of the best plants collected by the likes of Forest, Rock and Kingdom Ward. The gardens here at Mount Stewart were begun in earnest by Lady Edith in the early 1920s, and with the support of our members, we hope for them to be here for many centuries more. Thank you.